Hey there and welcome back to NBA 2K18's My League mode. My name is Pete and today we complete episode 35 of our My League expansion series with the Louisville Legionnaires. Now, in the last episode I started things off by answering some of your questions, and I would like to do that again today. The first is a rather simple one. Since Cheick Diallo is a center starting at the power forward, can we switch his position over to the power forward? And yes, we can. He has now played 37 games this season at the power forward position, and I think that more than justifies a full-time position switch. His rating now jumps up by 1 point from 78 to 79, but that is all that changes. Question number 2, and this was by far the most popular one: will Andre Flanders receive more minutes? And once again, I can answer that with yes. Flanders has been a scoring machine for the second unit. He is still far away from being the most efficient shooter, but next to Bryce Johnson, he is the primary scoring option off the bench, and so I think we can slowly increase his minutes, maybe from 20 to 25 at first, just to slightly increase his role on the team. Now that will happen in a moment, but let's quickly have a look at the third question first, because this one is kicking off the action this episode. In essence, the question here is, do you really need Kuzma? And the answer to that is shifting more and more towards a decisive no. Now, I know many of you would like to see Kuzma in the starting lineup as the power forward, and with a more up-to-date roster that would work perfectly. However, with this roster that I'm using, Kuzma is far better used at the small forward, where he is a versatile scorer who can do a little bit of everything. However, our wing rotation is already pretty crowded with players who are all better than him, and the recent emergence of Mitch Dennis isn't exactly helping Kuzma's case. I have been thinking about his role with the team for a while now, and I have finally made the decision that yes, we are going to trade him. Now, it was suggested in the comments to go after a point guard here, and I looked around for a long time, but I couldn't really find anything that worked. But I kept my eyes open for alternatives, and eventually I stumbled upon the Sacramento Kings. Now, the Kings are currently the 8th seed in the Western Conference, and they are in dire need of two things. Number 1, a starting caliber small forward, because this right here is all they have. And number 2, rebounding, because the Kings are the second worst rebounding team in the entire league. And so I played around a bit and eventually found a trade that gives them both. What you see here is my offer of Kuzma and Cheick Diallo for the Kings big man Skal Labissiere. Now, on first sight, this trade looks extremely lopsided, but let me explain. With this move, the Kings acquire Kuzma, who can immediately step in as the starting small forward. Kuzma has a team option coming up on his contract and will then become a restricted free agent, so he is definitely a long-term option. We didn't really have much use for him on the roster at this point anyway, and so in that regard the trade doesn't hurt us. In Cheick Diallo, the Kings then also acquire one of the best young rebounders in the league. And I'm not exaggerating here, Diallo's rebounding ratings are already in the mid-90s, which is also one of the reasons for his relatively high overall rating. That rating has helped him towards the starting spot in Louisville. However, I have to admit that he hasn't been a perfect fit next to Mohamed Bamba. He is a great rebounder, a good defender and very athletic, but sadly he remains a rather one-dimensional player. Looking forward, I would like to have someone who's a bit more versatile, and that brings me straight to Skal Labissiere. Now, in my opinion, the 2-star rating here does not do Labissiere justice, but one thing after another. Not only is Labissiere locked down for this and the next 2 seasons, but he has the added bonus of being from Kentucky. So in a sense the trade would bring him back home, and from a marketing standpoint that alone already has some upside. However, Labissiere's skill set is impressive as well. He is an amazing mid-range shooter at only 23 years young, and he shows flashes of being able to step outside beyond the 3-point line as well. His post-game is excellent for a young big man. He can go to work both with hook shots and fadeaways, and that alone already makes him a dangerous offensive weapon. Now, rebounding-wise, he is definitely not on the level of Diallo, but he's hovering right around the average for his position, and so I see no problems here. With a bit more training and experience, his rebounding should be just fine. Defensively, Labissiere also doesn't leave much to complain about. He can defend the post and the pick and roll, and his help-side defense isn't a problem either. A slightly higher shot blocking rating would be great, but his 6'11" frame will already do a lot of good work for him, especially combined with his high vertical. All in all, I think Labissiere is a clear upgrade over Diallo, and so I don't really have any issues giving away 2 of our players for him. Unsurprisingly, the Kings agreed to the trade. After all, it does have some upside for them as well, and so we say farewell to Kuzma and Cheick Diallo, and welcome to the latest member of the Louisville Legionnaires, Skal Labissiere. Now, you might be wondering at this point, Pete, why did you just trade for another center? Don't you have enough already? And yes, with Mo Bamba and Deontay Davis already on the roster, we have no need for a third guy at the position. And this now brings me straight to the great thing about Skal Labissiere and also the reason why I value him so highly. Now this right here is Skal Labissiere's fit at the center position. And as you can see here, his overall rating as a center comes out at a 78. Now if we switch him to power forward, which is my intended position for him, his overall rating goes up by 1 point to 79. And that is great and all, but we're not done yet. If we now switch Labissiere to the small forward, his rating goes down by only 1 point, and he's back at the original 78. Now what this means is that we just acquired a player who can effortlessly play 3 different positions. This is normally something only the true superstars can pull off, but it gives us an insane amount of flexibility with Labissiere. We could use him as a floor stretcher against slower rim protectors, we can feed him in the post against smaller players, or we can use him off the drive against guys who lack the athleticism to keep up with him. All in all, I have to say I am extremely happy with this move, and I think Labissiere will have a bright future with the Legionnaires. Our rotation after the move now looks like this. We still have Ulis, Richardson and Hood as our trio on the wings, while Labissiere immediately gets the starting spot at the power forward. His minutes are a bit reduced at the moment, but that is likely just a temporary thing. I want to ease him into the rotation and don't put too much pressure on him in the beginning, but if he plays well, his minutes will definitely increase. Completing the starting 5 is then Mohamed Bamba at the center, whose role hasn't changed. Off the bench, we have Rajon Rondo backing up Tyler Ulis at the point guard, although I'm thinking about reducing his minutes slightly, because I could also see Andre Flanders play short stretch at point guard. Flanders himself then remains as the backup shooting guard and our first scoring option off the bench, and he also just received a small minutes upgrade. Let me know in the comments what you think about playing him at point guard for 4 to 5 minutes a game. If that is something you could see as well, then I'm happy to test it out, and that would of course bring his minutes up a bit more. Profiting immensely from the departure of Kuzma is now Mitch Dennis, who has earned himself a permanent spot in the rotation, joining the Legionnaires' second unit for 15 minutes a night at the small forward. Bryce Johnson and Deontay Davis then remain the big men off the bench, and that concludes our 10-man rotation. White, Hernangomez, Lee and Ashik do not see minutes at the moment, but at least White and Hernangomez could see the courts for stretches in garbage time. So, with our first big roster move of the year taken care of, I think it is now time for some gameplay. And we start things off today against the Los Angeles Clippers. And so Skal Labissiere is giving his Legionnaires debut right here in Louisville, and hopefully with success. And we didn't have to wait long tonight for him to show up in the box score. With only 35 seconds played in the first quarter, Labissiere makes his first basket as a Legionnaire, tying the game up at 2 apiece on a beautiful mid-range jump shot. Over the course of the first half, the Legionnaires would then build a small 7-point lead, and that lead was built in large parts on the back of their defense. As you can see here, we already had 11 steals going into the break, most of those coming off of mistimed alley-oop passes. The Legionnaires then continued to score efficiently, and they also kept up the pressure on defense, and so the final score marks a win for Louisville, who come out on top here at home 113-103. And we had a ton of good performances here tonight. Josh Richardson scored 30 points to be the team's scoring leader, but he also did his part on defense, racking up 4 steals. Andre Flanders scored 14 off the bench as the team's second highest scorer, and Mo Bamba followed with 13 points, 14 rebounds, 5 steals and 2 blocks. Rodney Hood also managed to score in double figures with 11 points, and Skal Labissiere's season debut went pretty solid as well. He scored 11 points with 5 rebounds, 3 assists and 3 steals, and he even made 2 3-pointers tonight. He also had 6 turnovers and only shot 40% from the field, but I think as he gets more familiar with the team, those numbers will change for the better. Deontay Davis had a strong showing off the bench, scoring 10 points with 7 rebounds and 2 blocks in only 17 minutes, and rookie Mitch Dennis was also once again an efficient scorer. He scored 9 points, only missed a single shot from the field and went to the free throw line 4 times. Bryce Johnson barely missed a double-double with 9 points and 9 rebounds, while Tyler Ulis was dishing out the assists left and right, finishing with a team-high 10 assists to go along with his 6 points. Even Rondo deserves a mention here. Yes, he just produced 4 assists, but he finished the game with the highest plus-minus on the team. With him on the court, the Legionnaires outscored the Clippers by 18 points. So, first game of the episode down and we're ready for number 2, but first of all we have a trade to approve, and I have to admit I was somewhat shocked at how much sense this made. It's a fairly straight-up move here. The Phoenix Suns offer TJ Warren to the Milwaukee Bucks in exchange for Greg Monroe. Now, the Suns are currently the best team in the Western Conference, so I would suppose they're not desperate to make a move. However, this one makes a lot of sense for them, and here's why. TJ Warren is an 80 overall player with the corresponding contract. However, on the Suns roster he is only the 3rd best player at the small forward position. Both Porter and Jackson are younger than him, better than him and cheaper than him, and they're also on the contract for longer. At the same time, the Suns have a bit of a hole at the center. Dragan Bender is a solid option as the starter, but if the Suns are in fact aiming for a championship this year, they could use an upgrade. And that upgrade could arrive in the form of Greg Monroe. Not only would the Bucks save about $3 million with this move, they could also free up the starting spot at the center for Thon Maker. Maker is developing incredibly fast and is actually becoming one of the best big man shooters in the league, and they would have to sign him to an extension anyway after the season, and this move makes sure that he gets the playing time to go along with that. Acquiring TJ Warren then would upgrade the backup small forward position, so he would still not be able to start, but he would also no longer be the third option. With Warren in place as the backup small forward, the Bucks could then opt to decline Tony Snell's player option, which would save them an additional $12 million next season. So yeah, once again I was surprised how much sense this move made for both teams, and even though the Suns probably get the upper hand in this trade, I still think it's fair game and so we can accept it. From this trade we then jump straight into the second game of the episode. The Legionnaires once again play at home against the other expansion team in the league, the Las Vegas Aces, and this one really was a blowout. Our entire team pretty much scored at will, and so the end result, a well-deserved 32-point victory. Tyler Ulis led all scorers with 22 points to go along with 4 rebounds and 8 assists, and Richardson added 20, including 3 3-pointers. Labissiere, Bamba and Johnson all had 13 points each. Labissiere worked incredibly well off the pick and fade and only missed 2 shots from the field. Bamba once again was busy on defense and racked up 4 blocks, and Johnson had a team-high 8 rebounds tonight. That's already 5 guys who scored in double digits, but we have 3 more. The first one would be Rodney Hood, who scored almost all of his points from the free throw line. Then we have Mitch Dennis, who was even able to top that. He shot 8 of 10 free throws tonight and added a 3-pointer to finish with 11 points. And Andre Flanders did a bit of everything. Not the most efficient scoring performance from him, but he put up 10 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists and 3 steals. Now our next game is going to be a special one as we travel to Sacramento to face the Kings. Our trade partner from a few minutes ago will now meet Skal Labissiere in a Legionnaires uniform, and at the same time we will see the first of Kuzma and Cheick Diallo on the Kings roster. Let's also not forget that the Kings are one of the former teams of Rajon Rondo, so there is potential for a bit of a rivalry developing here, especially considering that we play them again at the end of the week. Going up against this former team, Labissiere also received a small minutes increase, and I actually have a small stint at the small forward planned for him, just a few minutes, but I think those could be interesting. For the Kings then, Kuzma in fact in the starting lineup. Cheick Diallo, however, despite having the highest rating at the power forward, would come off the bench. Now the Legionnaires started off strong but fell behind a bit in the second quarter. They played good defense and held the Kings to a poor 40% shooting performance. Nonetheless, turnovers and offensive rebounds were a bit of a problem, and so at halftime the Kings lead by 7. But the Legionnaires would continue to do what worked for them in half number 1. They played excellent defense and racked up 11 blocks in the second half. This in turn led to many easy baskets and a 60% shooting performance in the second half. And all of that was enough to turn this game around and build a 7-point lead of their own, and that lasted until the final buzzer. The high-scoring end result therefore 128 to 121. Now 4 of our players scored 20 or more points in this game, and the performance of the night very fittingly belonged to Skal Labissiere. The former Kings player finished with a team-high 22 points. He also added 7 points, 4 assists, 2 steals, and yes, a career-high 7 blocks. Up next in the scoring list, our 2 starting wings, Josh Richardson and Rodney Hood, both had 21 points. Richardson was a bit more active on defense with 2 steals and 2 blocks, while Hood had the better shooting night with an efficient 8 of 13 from the field. Andre Flanders then had an even 20 in this game, shooting just below 50% from the field. Mitch Dennis was able to make the most of his slightly reduced minutes tonight. He made 4 of his 6 3-point attempts and finished the game with 14 points in only 11 minutes. Mohamed Bamba with an almost quiet double-double, 11 points, 12 rebounds and 4 blocks. A very good performance, especially considering that he didn't even play 30 minutes tonight. Tyler Ulis then was only 1 basket shy of a double-double. He finished the game with 8 points and 12 assists and really did a fine job orchestrating the offense. Bryce Johnson wasn't too active tonight, but still came close to a double-double as well. His 8 points and 8 rebounds don't leave much to complain about, although his shooting percentage could have been a bit higher. Now let's also have a look at how our 2 former players did tonight, and in the case of Kuzma, I was very impressed. Kuzma played heavy minutes as the starting small forward for the Kings, and he finished with a game-high 24 points, including 6 3-pointers. And yes, it took him 14 attempts to make those, but that's still shooting over 42%, and from deep that is definitely a respectable percentage. Cheick Diallo, on the other hand, flew a bit under the radar tonight. He only had 4 points and 5 rebounds in 19 minutes of action, but on the plus side, he didn't miss a single shot. So here we are now with 40 games played, and the Legionnaires are once again on a small win streak. And this is also already the point where we're going to make the cut, even though we just played 3 games. After all, we did have quite a big roster move to talk about today. In the next episode, we'll then likely pick up the pace again, we'll have our rematch with the Kings, and we'll hopefully also be able to complete the month of January. Until then, leave your questions for the next episode in the comments below, let me know what you think about the trade in this episode, and I would also like to hear your input regarding playing time at the point guard for Andre Flanders. Also, of course, if you liked this episode, then please go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and if you want to support the channel, then feel free to subscribe. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.